Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Jeremy Owoh, Superintendent of Schools. I also have the pleasure of serving as the board president for the ISD ASCD Board of Directors, which is an international organization that really dives into technology, education, integration, implementation, but also content, leadership, and curriculum development. And I said earlier, I shortchanged our countries. We're actually in 90 countries across the world. I had the opportunity to present at the International Educator Summit in ASCD Ghana, Accra, Ghana this summer. And I tell you, the same discussions that we're having here, the same roadblocks or barriers, our educators across the world are having the same discussions. We were talking about, they were actually talking about professional learning communities, collaborative teaming, the issues, the pros and cons. And I thought that was really unique that across the world, they're having the same conversations, student engagement, uh, teacher retention, those important topics. And so I have that opportunity to really converse and learn from other educators. And even as a superintendent, I feel like it's important for me to continue to learn as well. And so I'm not standing in front of you as an expert. I'm just going to share some things that we've done in Jacksonville and that some of the experiences that I've had with ASCD and ISTE. So the innovation imperative, I kind of morphed this word from the moral imperative. Can anyone share with me what moral imperative is? What, from your perspective, just from your perspective, what would
What's
be
a moral
your
imperative? Somebody want to share on
moral
the mic?
imperative?
What's a moral imperative? You want to say? No?
Yeah, that's
Beliefs.
mhm.
This is just so the recording. Oh, okay. I just said a rule you live by, your belief system, something you believe is right and should be done. I guess I don't. I can't put
Right,
into
no,
words what I'm trying to say.
no, but it's your reality and your perspective, which is really good because when I look as an educator, and I always tell my colleagues and our leaders to remember your moral imperative when it comes to education, and that means making sure we do whatever it takes to ensure our young people, our students, receive the very best educational experience. So whatever it takes to ensure that that happens, that's your moral imperative. So always be conscious, always be moral. Uh, always have that as your moral imperative and remember that. And so the innovation imperative is really making sure that we do whatever it takes to ensure that we continue to be innovative in education and ensure that we do not shy away from innovation to ensure that it's part of the educational system. It's part of teaching and learning. And so that's the work that we're currently doing in Jacksonville and the work that I'm able to do with our partners at ISTE and ASCD. So converting challenges into catalysts for change. So one of the things I shared with you earlier, over 90 countries. Of course, we're predominantly in United States and Canada. We do a lot of work there. Again, I was able to go to Accra, Ghana this summer. We had some people to go to Asia in August. And actually, I was in Toronto 2 weeks ago talking to their educators about innovation and what it looks like in the school setting today. And so, again, ISTE ASCD. ASCD was founded in 1943. ISTE was in the 70s. And so they have been around and also have always served educators pre-K to higher ed. So I wanted to engage you this morning before I really jump into um, my topics and what we're doing to gain some information from you. So 10 years ago, from your perspective, from your role, what did it mean to be innovative? What did it mean to be innovative? And it's not a scientific response. It's not a scholarly response. From believe, I'm not guessing everyone's age, but most of us have been in education for at least 10 years. So in 10 years, prior to the pandemic, what did it mean to be innovative?
Anything new, anything outside of the box.
Okay.
So outside of the box thinking or outside of the box teaching
Okay.
and leading would be considered innovative.
Okay. Good answer. Someone else?
I think of in terms of marketing, being a principal, how are you going to recruit more students? Specifically, what skills or what can you offer the students that no other school can get?
Good. Good. Let me add to that. When it comes to technology, or when it came to technology, what did it mean to be innovative with technology?
Wonder Woman students.
Thank you.
Wonder Woman with
That's
students.
the answer that I was looking for. So, in 2014, the great thing about Jacksonville, we had the fortunate opportunity, a great opportunity to create our own district. And it was the first time it has ever been done in the state of Arkansas. So we detached from Pulaski County Special School District. You all knew that. And I was at that time in Little Rock as the principal of J.A. Fair and got the opportunity to go serve as assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction and desegregation in Jacksonville. And one of the first things that we were tasked with the community is to be innovative. How will the schools be innovative? And at that time in 2015, when I got there and we were in the transition, they wanted to make sure we had a one-to-one initiative. So they wanted to make sure we had technology for every young person. They were able to take the technology home, use the technology in the classroom, use it during lunch, just immersed with it. But the reality and up to that, and we made that happen. But we didn't realize even at that time the implications that were going to come, the unintended results that were going to come with that one-to-one initiative. And we didn't realize that that wasn't really innovation, just giving a device to young people. But at that time, that's what we were considering innovative. We were making sure everyone, you were just not using a class set of laptops or a class sets of iPads or a class set of Chromebooks. Now our students were able to use this at home. We put Wi-Fi on the buses. We thought we were being innovative, but of course that wasn't true. And so now I want you to take a few minutes at your table to think about what was the lessons learned during and after the pandemic. And so from your role where you were during the pandemic in 2019, 2020, and then after that, a couple of years after that, what was the lessons learned when it came to teaching and learning? Remember how it felt to be on the Zoom or Leads or whatever the platform that you use to remote teach or to remote support your teachers if you were an administrator or remotely support if you were instructional support. What was your lessons learned from that experience? Let's take a few minutes to talk at your table and then we'll share out.
You
What
guys
was
talk
lessons learned during and after the pandemic?
I'll come up on camera because we're still filming.
Mhm.
All right. So, from a learning council perspective, what we saw on a national average, 50% of the kids curled up into a ball and did nothing.
Well, and I would almost say the adults did the same thing. So
Yeah,
we
don't say
had
that. I was like, yeah.
well, I mean, but it was chaotic, and it was
Yes.
one of the most
Yes.
uncomfortable times. So we were dealing with the pandemic, but and still trying to have teaching and learning take place, but it was not the best platform
No.
and not the best storm. It was probably the worst storm that we had in addition to dealing with the pandemic because we were trying to meet a need in teaching and learning, but we were not prepared to do
No.
that.
No, because the change in the distribution structure
Mhm.
was so shocking to people. It's just you're used to going somewhere every day,
Mhm.
and now you're like, what? And actually,
the human condition, the sharing like we're doing right now, is so much easier to do in person.
in person.
Yes.
And now you're trying, because of the connection in the relationship.
Yes.
And now teachers were trying to have that same connection, that same engagement, that same relationship
Can't do it.
over screens.
Yeah.
With everything else that the students were experiencing in the background. Brothers and sisters, mom and dad,
Yeah,
cats,
animal
dogs,
cats running across their lap.
and the other
Absolutely.
responsibilities.
Yes.
And then you have your teachers and staff members having the same experience. Their children at home trying to remotely learn. Their spouses trying to remotely work. Dogs, cats running
Yeah,
around.
people
So
learn. Yeah.
not the
I had
best.
superintendents call me from all over the country during the pandemic and go, okay, you're the logistics girl, like, because I had already been talking about logistics. And they said, how do you keep a 7-year-old on a Zoom call for 6 hours? Like, you don't. Like, what are you doing? Right. So, yeah, so it was a shock, but it was also a structural shock because you can't keep a kid that age on a Zoom call for an hour.
For an hour.
Like, are you serious?
Mimi was trying to, for secondary, because we were on block schedule, they were trying to do it for an hour and a half. So let me get them shut
Yeah,
out.
let's go.
All right.
Okay, you guys share.
So as we come back, what were some of the things from your table that you discussed? What were some lessons learned? We start at this table.
Who wants to share out? Okay, Travis.
So some of the things that we learned, well, we knew that we didn't really have the capacity to understand how to really teach remotely. But I do have to say that ISTE and a lot of the organizations, we have been warning this for years, since the inception of ISTE, that we need to prepare for this. We need to, after conference, it was always having this conversation of how to extend what we were doing in the classroom. And so what happened was the pandemic slipped up on us, and we realized at that point that that we weren't necessarily prepared, except for those districts who had invested in virtual and these types of environments. You had some districts who were already doing this, and it was pivot was nothing. And so afterwards, I think there was a greater attention of what would happen again. So we need to prepare and prepare for this for the next time. We did that up until. And I say this, and it's not derogatory, but after the vaccine came out, it was like, then we shifted to, well, we'll wait. We're not going to do this again. Everybody was on board to doing it, to, hey, let's shift and let's just transition. But once we got a sense that we could go back to 2019, we abandoned everything in most cases.
Spot on, Dr. Taylor. Thank you. Great points. Someone from another table.
You guys want to make it?
At our table, we discussed how, as educators, most of us were very comfortable with technology. However, the community, at least the community where I work, not so much. A lot of the homes didn't have Wi-Fi. So the district did remedy that by getting the hotspots. But then we had so many parents who weren't familiar with technology, and so they weren't able to help their student. And I shared with my table, I had one parent who called me every single day, and I walked her through getting on the iPad, connecting to the Wi-Fi, logging into ClassLink, going to Schoology, getting to the course or the Zoom or whatever they were doing at the time. And I mean, it was a struggle for her. And the next morning she would call me again and we'd walk through it again. And I mean, we did this every single day. But I know me as an educator, I thought, well, I'm used to technology. I'm around it all the time and just assumed others were. But that's not always the case.
Really great points. And as Dr. Taylor and give me your name again.
Kelly.
As Miss Kelly just said, we had a lot of lessons learned, a lot of aha moments, and we were starting to pivot. But like you said, as soon as vaccine came around, or as soon as we returned back to the classroom and back to normal, we abandoned all of that. And not just the educational system. Those of us who attended churches started to pivot more online. Now, I mean, we just returned all back to normal. And I remind my staff, the pandemic gave us a wake-up call, especially when I had the opportunity to return back to Jacksonville in 21, I told them that one-on-one initiative wasn't innovative because what we learned through the pandemic was that we were not prepared to teach anything online. We did not support our teachers. We did not provide the right professional learning. We provided them curriculum and instruction, teaching and learning, professional learning opportunities for in-person learning, but never remote learning. And we didn't prepare our leaders on how to support our teachers as they provide that teaching and learning. We didn't have the infrastructure, both inside the school district and outside. I mean, we tried to be innovative by putting Wi-Fi on the buses and putting the buses in the neighborhoods. When I did a brief stint in Pine Bluff as superintendent, that was the first thing that we did. We made sure every bus had Wi-Fi and put it in apartment complexes or on streets so that students could connect, thinking that that was going to meet a need, but it didn't. We still had, because the bandwidth, the infrastructure was all wrong. But those were lessons learned that we abandoned to fix or to innovatively approach after we returned back to the classroom. And so today we even talk about, and a couple of years I had the opportunity to have Richard Collada, the CEO from ISD-ASCD, come to our district to work with us because we realized that the infrastructure, even as it pertains to our technology policy, did not promote acceptable use of technology, of innovation. We had a list of don'ts. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And it wasn't just for the students. We had a list of don'ts for teachers. Don't do this, don't do this. But we wanted them to be innovative. We told them that it's important for the educational system. We learned this during the pandemic and after the pandemic that we needed to be ahead of the curve, but we were not. We had issues with equitable access. I just realized I misspelled equitable.
You made a new word.
Yeah, I did.
Equity
Listen,
able.
I taught English at Parkview, and I probably shouldn't say this, being in Little Rock. And I always told my students when I was writing on the board, these were teachable moments when they caught my
You just made
misspelled word.
You just made a
But,
new word.
I just
Equity
realized
able.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
equitable access. So I was so during the transition, briefly between when I was at Jacksonville the first time and coming back, I served at the State Department, and it was when ESSA was being established, and we had to write this statewide plan to be submitted to the federal programs at the U.S. Department. And the major part of it was equitable access. How were we going to ensure that all students had equitable access to every component of resources and supports that they needed to be successful? How we're going to ensure that teachers and leaders, school leaders, had equitable access. And so a lot of things came out to that. And a lot of discussion was just infrastructure and innovation. And the federal government and the state government realized then that they had to support. And that's the reason why we saw a lot of fiber being laid from the state side, from the federal side, a lot of money being put into E-rate, because they realized that even from the pandemic, after the pandemic, we did not support innovation. We didn't put the funds in that we needed to ensure to ensure equitable access. We also learned that we were not prepared for student engagement and ownership when it came to remote learning, when it came to being able to support our educators providing that teaching and learning remotely. We had real-time data. We felt like we would get real-time data with the innovation and feedback, but we didn't know what to do with the feedback. We didn't know how to create those next steps. But we were ready, and one of the things about Jacksonville, we had the opportunity to plan future ready, and that was the goal, that was the angle that we were always looking towards. How can we make sure we had future ready scholars and that they had those skills to be employed, to be continue their education, or to enlist. But we realized that we didn't have the infrastructure to do that. If we had to pivot to remote learning, all of that shifted as well. And so a lot of those things were challenges for us, and it was challenges to manage. We didn't have the team, the instructional team, nor the technology team to support remote learning, to support innovation. So we really had to start looking at how we provided um, innovation, or how we supported innovation in our district. So the reality in education is access alone is not enough. Those one-to-one devices was not enough. We needed to look at how we provided professional development. And what I shared with my core team at the district office, we had to get away from that one size fits all professional development, because we had learners, teacher learners, educators who were at different learning levels. And it was an injustice for them to be sitting in a meeting like this for a sitting get, and everyone's getting the same learning. And so we started to tier our professional learning, especially when it came to innovation. And then we started to look at how we learn. Instead of having isolated groups learning, teachers here, library media specialists over here, we started making sure we had teams of educators going to trainings together. And so the fortunate opportunity for me as board president, and at that time when I was in Little Rock as deputy, I was just on the board for ASCD. We started having the discussion of taking teams together. So you have teachers, you have the support staff, you have school leaders, and you have the decision makers at the district level going to conferences together to learn together, and being able to receive the same information, but then able to digest and communicate and develop plans of implementation, so that when you're back in the building or back in the district, you had a game plan, you have an action plan in place. And so learning together was another shift that we had to incorporate with our professional development. And digital citizenship, we had to make sure we had the infrastructure to that. We had to make sure we were more proactive. When Richard came to our district, he also helped other districts in California, like LA Unified, to really look at their technology policy. We had to create acceptable use. And it's just like behavior, the physical behavior in our schools. If we want our young people to behave appropriately and know what's appropriate behavior in the classroom, in the cafeteria, on the playgrounds, on the bus, we have to make sure we provide the opportunity to teach them those appropriate behaviors. And that's the same way with technology. We have to, in anything in education, we have to take time to teach them the appropriate behavior, but we also have to make sure we provide the supports and the skills and the learning opportunities for our adults who are providing that teaching and learning and that growth. And then we have to be flexible and personalize everything that we do, and know that we can learn probably the best educational experiences hands-on for our young people, but also for our educators. One of the things that we had to really realize is the uh, the opportunity, or the time to feel uncomfortable. And I say that is when, meaning we had to release the reins of standing in front of the classroom as a professional development presenter, but also as an educator, and allow our students to have a reverse role with us. Because one of the things we did realize is that we could learn a lot from our students, and students learn best from each other as well. And so how do we partner with our students to take ownership of their educational experience and not feel like we had to be the sole provider of those educational experiences all the time? And how do you move our teachers from being uncomfortable with that to comfortable? And we realized that as the school leaders, district leaders, we had to do the same thing for our educators. Instead of sit and get and talking to the educators, giving them the opportunity to present what they learn, what they know, and then vice versa in the classroom. So, and then have those conversations with our technology team. So, two different sides of the houses. We have our technology department, and then we have our curriculum and instruction team. They most of the time seem to be on two opposite sides of the coin. And we realized that if we were going to have the infrastructure or the sustainability in the district of making sure we were being innovative, we support innovation, we would support growth in our district, that technology department had to talk to the curriculum and instruction department. And so, and I know Little Rock has this, or I think they do, Dr. Taylor. We have instructional technology specialists within our district that talk or serve as liaison between our technology department and the curriculum instruction team. And so he goes back, that team goes back and forth. And our library media specialists throughout the district also serve as those liaisons between technology and curriculum. And one of the things that I think it's really important that we all realize is that our media centers are the technology, most of the time, the technology hub of the schools, but they shouldn't be the only places where technology is fluent or technology flourish. And a lot of times we have that happen. If the latest technology or innovation, you want to learn it, you go to the media center. We have to get out of that. It has to take place throughout the school environment. And so we had to build the infrastructure to do that. Technology department had to be comfortable to let some permissions go and to open up some things so that we could have the sustainability, the innovation, the implementation, the creativity to happen in the classroom. And so there, and I tell you, the reality is I still have to have some conversations with my technology department. I need you to release some of these permissions. I need this application available so that our teachers, our students have access to it. We have GoGuardian to do a lot of safety searches and to pull things when inappropriate things happen. And we used another software to do that as well. But we have the capabilities to do that. And so why not use those capabilities instead of restricting our young people and our teachers from creativity and innovation? And then, of course, having the right people at the table all the time. So relationships. And that's another thing that we had to realize too, is that AI innovation is not going to replace the relationships. Relationships still matter. We have to have the conversation. We have to be at the table. But we have to have the relationships. And so I had a video, but I won't show the video, or I'll probably end with the video. But I want to end with this quote: "Is technology is best when it brings people together to learn, create, solve problems that matter." So relationships really matter. If we're going to continue to push forward and ensure that we are ahead of the curve, we have to be willing to have those tough conversations and those uncomfortable conversations of what it's like to implement these innovative practices. So call to action, our reality is that from access to impact, this is where we're currently working. We did revise our technology policy, so it's more of acceptable use. We tiered our professional development, and we have opportunities created. For example, this last June, I took a group of my media center specialists, my principals, curriculum instruction team from the district level, my assistant superintendents, and myself. We traveled together to San Antonio to ISD ASCD. So we had the curriculum instruction side, but also the ed tech side, and we took time to learn together. We, at the end of the day, we came together to debrief and then create an action plan on how we were going to move forward with professional development. And so fast forward to August, we actually had a mini professional development summit where our teachers were able to sign up for different sessions, and we rotated, and they rotated throughout the 2 days, and we received really positive feedback from that, because teachers felt like they had ownership in their learning. And so I want to make sure that I shared that. So from training to transformation, from compliance to culture, really providing the culture of learning, lifelong learning, even as adults. And then from short-term fixes to sustainable systems, and from disruption to design. So moving from being uncomfortable to comfortable with innovation. So that's it. And I'll share my presentation, so you'll have the links and the videos as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
That was great. That was very meaningful. Very meaningful. Thank you very much.